I shall be discussing the target and OAR delineation guidelines for spine SBRT. Before the delineation process, we have to make sure that our case selection is appropriate. Our patient has been positioned and immobilized in an appropriate position, and the simulation has included a thin section CT series with 2 millimeter or less slice thickness and an appropriate extent above and below our region of interest. We also need additional imaging in the form of a volumetric MRI. Uh, the two sequences that are most important are a T1 contrast sequence for tumor delineation and T2 sequence for cord or CTV delineation. Additionally, stir or space sequences may also aid cord delineation. For post-op SBRT, preoperative MRI axial images should also be available. Sometimes spinal hardware may create artifacts in planning CT scan, and this may interfere with target delineation. So we may need to modify the simulation protocol or take additional images such as MVCT, CT myelogram, or MRI space sequence, which may be more reliable and effective compared to conventional imaging. So the CT myelogram is best, followed by MRI and followed by MVCT. Spine SBRT has three main components: bony disease, epidural disease, or paraspinal soft tissue. Just a recap of the Bilski grading system for epidural disease. When there is no epidural disease or minimal epidural impingement, it is grade 0 or 1A. When there is deformation of the thecal sac, it is grade 1B or C. And when there is spinal cord compression, it is grade 2 or 3. And in this case of grade 2 and 3, SBRT is not a preferred treatment. The neurosurgeons had devised a communication system for depicting the various parts of the vertebrae. They had divided the vertebrae into 12 sectors, which went anti-clockwise from the spinous process. And they called it the Weinstein-Buriani-Biagini system. There was also a system for depicting the site of the vertebra from outside to inside, from A to E. We have modified this for radiosurgery, and we call it the modified Weinstein-Buriani-Biagini system, where we have divided the vertebral body either in the cervical, thoracic, or lumbar region into 6 sectors. We start anteriorly from the body of the vertebra as sector 1, and then we go clockwise. Sector 2 is the left pedicle. Sector 3 is left transverse process and lamina. The spinous process is sector 4. Then we come to the right side. Right transverse process and lamina forms sector 5, and right pedicle forms sector 6. This is the same for all 3 regions of cervical, thoracic, and lumbar vertebrae. And this is the most important slide for understanding the subsequent delineation process. So we have had 3 contouring guidelines over the last 9 years for intact bone post-op SBRT as well as for sacral SBRT from the International Spine Radiosurgery Consortium. But the principles of delineation remain the same as for 3D CRT. Our GTV delineation would include all the gross tumor using all available imaging that includes CT, PET, or MRI. We also have to include the epidural and paraspinal components in addition to bony disease. Our CTV should include the GTV and also adjacent bony expansions for subclinical extension. We have to include the abnormal marrow signals suspicious for microscopic invasion. We have to avoid circumferential CTVs encircling the cord unless the bony or epidural GTV was actually surrounding the cord all around. If there is paraspinal soft tissue, a 5 millimeter radial and craniocaudal margin around the GTV is desirable. This is the guideline for intact bone, and I'll discuss some of the case examples. These are situations where the disease was involving the sector 1, that is the vertebral body. If it was a focal lesion within the body away from either of the pedicles, then the vertebral body or sector 1 alone suffices as the CTV. If the disease is lateralized to one part of sector 1 or the body, and it is impinging upon the ipsilateral pedicle, then that pedicle also needs to be included in our CTV. If the disease is involving the entire vertebral body and encroaching both pedicles on either side, then both these pedicles have to be included. So essentially, the part that is involved has to be assessed, and if it is adjacent to another sector, that additional sector has to be included. Usually, as a rule of the thumb, we involve or take the involved sector and two adjacent sectors on either side. So this is a disease which was involving sectors 1 and 2. Uh, since sector 3 is adjacent to the involved sector 2, not very distant from the gross disease, it is included in the CTV. Whereas because of lateralized disease, the GTV is far from the opposite pedicle. That is why the opposite pedicle is not part of this CTV. Here, the disease is involving the vertebral body, both pedicles, and a tiny sliver of sector 5 here. In this situation, we can include sector 5, 6, 1, 2, and 3. Since the disease, the gross disease is far from sector 4, it doesn't need to be included in the CPV. In these examples, the disease is involving the pedicle on one side. Wherever the disease, gross disease was impinging upon another sector, that sector is included. Here, the disease is impinging upon sector 3, so only sector 3 is additionally included. Whereas in the right side, this example, the disease is impinging both on sectors 1 and 3. So both these are also included in the CTV. Post of SBRT, on the other hand, may be planned following various surgeries. These surgeries may include vertebroplasty or surgical fixation to stabilize the vertebral column, or a separation surgery for surgical downgrading of epidural disease that helps plan better SBRT. The technique for immobilization, simulation, and registration is the same as for intact bone. The target delineation also follows the same principles. Our GTV here would include any residual disease seen on post-op imaging. This could be bony, epidural, or paraspinal component of residual disease. For CTV, we have to take into account this residual GTV as well as the tumor bed and sites of potential microscopic spread. Again, we divide the preoperative extent of disease into the same 6 spinal sectors, and we use these sectors both for bony as well as for epidural disease. Surgical findings, including operative notes and personal communications with the surgeon, have to be taken into account, but there is no need to include the surgical incision or spinal hardware. Donut-shaped CTV again should be limited to situations with evidence of preoperative circumferential disease. And as for intact bone, for paraspinal extension, additional 5 millimeter margin in radial and crinocaudal directions may be required. I'll discuss a few case scenarios of post-op SBRT, but you can see all of them in the detailed guideline in the publication. In this situation, the disease was involving the bone as well as the epidural component in all the 6 sectors. So sectors 1 and 6 of bony involvement and sectors 1 and 6 of epidural involvement as well. So irrespective of whether there was any residual disease in the post-op scan or not, our CTV would include all the 6 sectors. So it's a circumferential CTV in this situation around the cord. In this particular example, the disease is lateralized to the left part of sector 1 and also including the sector 2, both in the bony component as well as in the epidural component. And in the postoperative scan, there was a residual component in the epidural space in sectors 1 and 2. So sectors 1 and 2 definitely form a part of our CTV. Since the disease in sector 1 was lateralized, we do not need to go till sector 6. But because sector 2 was involved and it was adjacent to sector 3 is also included in the CTV. In this particular example, this patient had involvement of sectors 1, 2, and 3 preoperatively, and there was epidural disease involving sectors 1 and 2. And there was also a paraspinal component towards the left side. This patient had a residual disease in the epidural space in sectors 1 and 2. So our initial sectors 1, 2, and 3 will definitely be part of the CTV. But since the disease was involving the whole vertebral body, we take another sector, that is sector 6, towards the right side as part of the CTV. In this example, this patient had suffered a vertebral body fracture and had undergone vertebroplasty. There was no paraspinal disease, no epidural disease preoperatively or postoperatively, and there was restoration of the vertebral height with vertebroplasty. Here, since only sector 1 was involved, there was no involvement of pedicles, we can restrict our CTV to sector 1 only. Coming to the sacral metastases, which are different in appearance from the rest of the vertebrae, and because the sacrum itself is anatomically complex, we have to devise separate guidelines for this. All the 5 sacral vertebrae are fused to form a single bone. There are no intervertebral discs, so there is reduced flexibility, as well as there is a higher probability of contiguous spread to other vertebrae. We can see the previous intervertebral disc remnants as transverse lines of fibrocartilage, as seen in these images in the axial as well as in the coronal sections. When we go from cranial to caudal, we can see that the sacral vertebrae change shape. When we are seeing vertebrae in S1 and S2 level, we see that the body of the vertebra is divided into 8 sectors as opposed to the 6 sectors in the rest of the spine. These sectors again start at sector 1, which is the body, and then we go clockwise. The LI is divided into 2 sectors based on the embryological origin. So on the left side, it is divided into sectors 2 and 3. On the right side, it is sector 7 and 8 of sacral ala, and the spinous process is sector 5. When we come down to sectors or to segments S3, S4, and S5, we see that the sacral ala is much reduced. We only have 1 sector of sacral ala on either side, and there is no spinous process. So we only have 5 sectors in S3 to S5 level. Discussing a few case scenarios here. This patient had a GTV which was limited to sector 1 of S1 to S3 and also extended to sector 3. So when we see in this cartoon here, this yellow depicts the GTV, and since there was involvement of sector 1 and involvement of sacral foramen, all these sectors adjacent to this sacral foramen have to be included. Since sector 3 was involved, we additionally include sector 4, and since there was impingement towards sector 7, this was also included in the CTV. In this second example, the disease was involving only sector 1 of S1 vertebrae. There was no extension to neural foramen. So we extend our CTV only to 1 sector on adjacent side, which is sector 2 and sector 8. In this situation, this is an S4 lesion to the left of midline bulging into the spinal canal involving sector 4. So here we take the adjacent sectors, which are sectors 3, sector 1, and sector 6 as part of our CTV. Coming to PTB delineation, this is a uniform expansion around the CTV of 1 to 3 millimeters, depending on the setup errors in your center. It should contain both the GTV and the CTV in entirety. But sometimes we may need to modify the PTV margins adjacent to critical structures to allow spacing at the discretion of the treating physician. For this purpose, sometimes another PTV, which is called the PTV prescribed, is generated. This is the original PTV minus the cord PRV or cord structure, and this is purely for the plan evaluation purposes. In recent times, some authors have also tried to escalate dose to the Gros disease, wherein the GTV is given an additional 2 to 3 millimeter margin, which is called the SIB PTV, and this is given a slightly higher dose than the rest of the spinal PTV. In this case example that we treated, we gave 30 grain 3 fractions to the GTV with a 2 millimeter margin, and 27 grain 3 fraction to the rest of the vertebral body as per ISRS guideline. This is still not a recommendation because the data is limited to small institutional and dosimetric studies. Coming to the OARs and normal tissue constraints, these are the OARs that we need to delineate for vertebral SBRT, the spinal cord or chorda equina with the help of our fused CT myelogram or T2 MRI. Depending on the region of the spine, ribs or chest wall, esophagus, aorta, lungs, heart, kidney, bowel, or brachial or lumbosacral plexus may have to be delineated, and skin always need to be delineated, especially close to the vertebral level. For the spinal cord delineation, we can fuse the thin section CT scan with the volumetric T2 or space MRI. And we have to be cautious that changing the window level may alter the visualization of true cord. Some authors like to generate another margin around the cord, which is the PRV with an expansion of 1.5 to 2 millimeters, which in essentiality is equivalent to the thecal sac. But now it is preferred that you use true cord as the OAR because it gives a more reliable estimate of the actual radiotherapy dose and allows better coverage of the epidural space, which is a known region for recurrence. This is an example of how the skin and chest wall is delineated. The ribs are delineated, the chest wall is delineated as a 2 centimeter thick rind around the lungs, and the skin is delineated as a 3 to 5 millimeter thick structure, especially in the posterior part close to the vertebra, but ideally all around the body. The planning goals would be discussed in a subsequent presentation. The dose fractionation now, after the phase 3 trial by Dr. Arjun Sehgal, now the standard is 24 grain 2 fractions, provided we are able to achieve the cord constraints. These are the APM task group 101 recommendations for the various organs at risk, depending on how many fractions we are delivering on SBRT in. So to summarize, the SBRT spine process involves a judicious case selection and immobilization process. We should use the pre-SBRT surgery optimally when needed, follow standard delineation guidelines, use consistent planning and evaluation criteria, document treatment goals upfront, score the pain before and after treatment, and use appropriate follow-up imaging for the purpose of treatment response. Thank you.